Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's Kai and today's video is all about cat eye gels. These are definitely some of my favorite gel products and I wanted to put together something that was a kind of beginner's guide to cat eye gels, giving you some tips and tricks on troubleshooting getting the best cat eye effects, and then also go over 5 different summer cat eye design ideas that you could start using in your own nail art. So if that sounds good to you, please consider subscribing if you aren't already. I do nail art tutorials, vlogs, hauls, and all of that fun stuff. But I appreciate everyone who's here watching, and without too much more chit-chatting, let's start with the basics of cat eye gels. Okay, so first things first, let's talk nail stands. You actually want to avoid these metal magnetic ones and instead opt for something acrylic. These ones you can get off AliExpress, or if you want a larger handle to hold with, these Jin B ones from Sweetie Nail Supply are really nice. And I'll showcase here why with color 28 from the By Muse Soft Green collection. I recently got this collection as PR and oh my god, it's stunning. I'm a green lover. Unfortunately, I think it is sold out, but hopefully they restock it soon. Anyway, you can see that I'm doing the velvet magnetic effect here. Specifically with this one, I find that because the handle is metal, it pulls your magnet in a weird way and it results in more of an uneven finish. So if you're having trouble getting the right pattern, consider changing your stands. Next, let's talk about 2 methods for applying magnetic gels. Now, because magnetic gels are more transparent so that you can see the shine, it can result in sort of a sheer color. You can build up that color by laying down one layer first, demagnetizing it, curing it, and then painting a second layer on top and then doing your magnetic pattern in that second layer. Now, this works perfectly fine for methods like the orb method, or even like the line method of magnet where you get really concentrated particles. My preferred method is actually just using a thicker layer to start. So I will apply a little bit more product, I'll flip it over and let it self-level sort of like you would a builder gel. And because you have more uncured product, you have more magnetic particles to work with. Now, which method you use might actually depend on the pattern. You can see with the spotlight effect, it actually doesn't matter, they look very similar. In fact, the left where you do 2 layers might actually be better because it results in more even color coverage, because when you add a thicker layer, sometimes it can pool around the edges. However, if you are using an effect that spreads out the particles a lot more, so something like the velvet or the white effect, consider using a thicker layer to start because the fewer particles will result in a less smooth effect. You can see to the left that those particles look a little bit more sparkly and they don't have that really strong shine across the surface. And that's because doing one thicker layer just means that you have more magnetic particles to spread. So just something to keep in mind once you decide what design you want to do. Now let's troubleshoot streaky cat eye. So I'm going to show you with the new Iya collection. This is a silky cat eye, and I find these are the biggest culprits of streaks. If you paint on a layer, you might notice some brush strokes, and that's pretty normal for silky cat eyes. Unfortunately, sometimes it does really just depend on the quality of the cat eye if it's going to have more streaks. One thing I find helpful is just to let the polish sit. You can flip it over, you can let it self-level a little bit, and then another thing I do is I will run the magnet around each edge many times. I don't know if it's because the particles that you're magnetizing are physical things, even though they're really small. When they move in the gel, I almost feel like they agitate slightly and help kind of smooth out the surface, get rid of any streaks. So I'm showing you in real time here just how much I often will work that magnetic polish first before doing my final design. I often do the orb method here, concentrate all the particles in the center, and then I'll go in and do my final magnetic look. In this instance, I'm showing you with the wide magnetic look so you can really see just how smooth you can get a magnetic polish just by playing around with it a little bit and getting those particles moving. Now, another tip I have is actually to wipe away the tacky layer of whatever is underneath the magnetic gel. I know some people are taught not to wipe the tacky layer. I was taught differently, and I find sometimes if you have that uncured gel layer on there, it can almost like mix in with your magnetic polish and then cause some of the streaking. Okay, and then last but not least, let's talk magnet types. I'm only going to go over 2 because there are plenty of other really great guides out there, but the main 2 that you're probably going to find are the round rod magnets and then these rectangular magnets, and they work very differently. So this is pretty much the standard that you get in every set. You want to hold the magnet sideways. meaning if you're looking at it from above, you're looking at the skinny part. So if you hold it sideways, that's going to pull the particles towards the end of the magnet. So running it up and down the side of the nail will get you kind of like the wide effect, or you can do one side to get the beveled effect. If you flip the magnet to the flat side, that's actually how you'll demagnetize things. So you can run it up and down and it will actually kind of push the particles away. You can run it over the surface of the nail on either side, and that's how you demagnetize. If you want to do a French design, you'll need a bar magnet actually, and you'll want to twist the magnet about 45 degrees and hold it at an angle over the nail. And that will bring all of the particles towards the free edge and give you that really nice French line. If you want to do the straight line effect, you'll hold the magnet up and down across the surface of the nail. Again, keep it very straight, and you'll pull all of those particles to the center into a line effect. This is a very basic overview of the bar magnet. Of course, there's more you can do, but again, I'll have some guides linked down below from some other amazing creators. For the rod magnets, I really prefer the short types, though you can find longer types as well. And these ones essentially just push and pull the magnetic particles towards the end of the magnet. So it's pretty simple. You just hold the magnet parallel to the nail and you run it up and down the sides to get the wide effect. And this is what I'm doing with this kind of magnet about 90% of the time. You can also get a cool French design with this magnet by just creating that wide effect and then taking the magnet and pushing it towards the free edge of the nail. This will kind of push the particles away from the magnet. You want to hold it again pretty parallel to the nail surface, and you get a different sort of French effect. So hopefully that helps you troubleshoot some common problems with magnetic gels. And now we can talk about some fun summer designs. So starting off, one of my favorite things to do with magnetic gels is water looks. I'm going to be showing you 3 different methods and using 3 different magnets. Starting with the Oasis collection, I recently picked this up from Premier Beauty Show and it's just so stunning and perfect for these kinds of effects. So I'm taking the really gorgeous periwinkle blue and I'm just painting on a layer. And then I have these square magnets here that you can get in sets. And I'll admit they're a little bit hard to stick together and pull apart. But you want to go for some sort of kind of cross-like configuration. The more uneven and asymmetrical, the better, and it just creates these really pretty ripples in the surface. If you want, you can even layer 2 layers on top of each other for more dimension, and this just perfectly imitates kind of like that ripply water look, almost like the light reflecting on those really small waves in shallow water. I will be showing you how to amp this up with some 3D effects, but let's look at another way that you can mimic water, this time with the magnet that actually comes with the Diami Oasis kit. So I'm painting on a layer of gel, and then I'm just doing that white effect to bring all the particles to the surface, and then I'm taking this magnet. It's almost like 3 tiny rod magnets that are in some sort of 3D printed housing, and you kind of have to play around with the angle on this one. You want to make sure it's parallel to the nail surface, and then depending on your positioning, you get these really cool ripple effects as well. Either magnet is really easy to use, so I guess it really just depends on what is accessible to you. Now these are for like the wave effect. If you want to do circular ripples, there are 2 methods that I really like. So going in again, another layer of gel, again bringing those particles to the surface. And this time I'm taking one of these ring magnets. I got mine from AliExpress, and you want to hold this parallel, make sure it's not tilted, otherwise you won't get the full ring effect, but it creates this really, really stunning sort of halo effect. I really like it. I think there's so much versatility here, but we're going to later on add some 3D and make this into a circular ripple nail. But even on its own, it looks super pretty, super interesting. Let's move on to our last effect though, which is another circular ripple effect. And this one is best suited for a silky magnetic gel. So I'm bringing back out the Blue Core series. I'm going in with a layer, creating that wide magnetic effect on the surface. And then you want to take a clean liner brush and just start drawing the circles in before curing. This breaks up that velvet effect of the magnetic gel. And we are going to be topping this with some 3D gel afterwards. So it's okay if your circles aren't exactly perfect. Obviously, the smoother you can get it, the better it's going to look. And really, you could do any sort of design with this. If you wanted to do stars or other sorts of doodles, I think that would look really cool. But here's what our ripples look like. And now I'm going to talk about how to amplify a magnetic design. And that is with some sort of clear 3D gel. Because cat eye gels are so reflective, adding volume with a clear gel is going to really amplify their effects. So I'm using one of my favorites, it's the Jinbei Crazy Top Thick, and I'm just drawing in a 3D ripple in between the lines that I drew in the cat eye gel. You don't want to go over those lines, you want to do this in between. And this just really emphasizes the shine of the cat eye gel. And I personally love a good 3D texture, and I think it really just helps sell the water look and feel of this design. Now, another way to do ripples is with sort of a thicker 3D gel. This one is the Jello Jello Edge Gel. It's actually mostly for chrome application, but I really like it for adding texture. I'm just using an ombre brush and I'm painting it in circles on that nail that we used the circular magnet on. Because this gel really holds its texture and because the ripples here are a little bit more busy, you want the cat eye background to actually be a little bit more simplistic. So I paint on the circles with the ombre brush just to get that general texture down, and then I go in with a liner brush and really just define those circles a little bit better. Adding extra product is needed to create that nice rippled 3D look. And this is another of my favorite methods. I love the Jello Jello Edge Gel. As you can see, it's super stiff, so it holds its shape really well, and you can just create really gorgeous texture with it. And of course, it's chrome friendly as well. So that is our second ripple design. Two very different approaches, but let me know which one you like best down in the comments. And now let's look at the final method for creating some 3D water nails, at least for this tutorial. We're going to take some clear 3D clay. This one is from Crisanionary. I love it because it is so non-sticky. As you can see here, I'm working it with my gloves and it's not sticking to anything. Please make sure though that you are wearing gloves when handling 3D gel. You want to avoid contact with your skin as much as possible to avoid a potential allergy. But I'm just pressing that into the surface of one of the ripple designs, keeping it in the center, and then I'm taking the handle of a brush that's rounded and I'm just pressing dents into that clay, kind of shaping it to my liking, trying to keep the side profile quite slim to not bulk out the nail. And you can actually do this technique over the entire nail surface. I happen to like grouping it in the center. Once you're happy with the shape, you can cure it and then cover it with a thin layer of top coat. The clay itself actually doesn't need top coat. It is a non-white finish, but I find it just looks a little bit more clear if you top coat it. And then you can even add a few dainty little charms, and you have this gorgeous water ripple effect that is not only the perfect level of sparkle, but it also has a bit of a 3D element to it. And those are all of our water designs. And now let's look at another of my favorite methods, stained glass nails. Now this technique is super versatile, but today I'm going to show you with the By Muse Soft Green collection, because look at all these gorgeous green shades. I recently saw this picture here from the Mofusan Japan collection, and unfortunately shipping is very expensive for me, so I didn't buy it, but I wanted to make something inspired by it. And I'm just starting out with painting on my Lily of the Valley leaves and the stem. I do flash cure in between, magnetizing each piece individually, and that really gives you the look of separated panels of glass. And then I'm just using a white paint and a mini round brush to paint on some little Lily of the Valley flowers. And then once I have those painted on, I'm basically going in and filling the empty spots with different abstract shapes. The way that stained glass is actually made is not by painting the glass itself, but by taking different pieces of colored glass, cutting them up to fit perfectly together, and then gluing them together with solder. I actually used to do a little bit of stained glass before I got into nails. So when you're making your design, just keep in mind that it should be relatively simple. Each sort of shape that you paint is going to be its own separate pane of glass. It can sometimes help to actually outline your design first and then go in and paint in the individual panels with the different colors. Again, magnetizing each one separately and flash curing. Because I've done this technique before, I didn't really feel the need to pre-plan it. But yes, just keep in mind that every shape you paint will have to be outlined later on, so try to keep it relatively simple. Once you have all of your free space filled in though, make sure to fully cure everything even though you've been flash curing along the way, and then wipe away the tacky layer. I'm going to go in with a top coat to do some isolated chrome. So I'm painting on a pretty thick layer of top coat just to even out that surface. It's likely going to be uneven from the layering of the cat eye gels in the different sections. And then I'll give that a full cure and then just buff the surface with a 180 grit file, and then you have a nice smooth matte surface to do isolated chrome. This is the Diami Silly Jello, which I think they've since renamed to the Powder Gel. But I'm just taking my Diami Longliner and very painstakingly outlining each section with that Silly Jello. You have to be very careful with this. This is what you are going to chrome over to create the outline. That's meant to look like the solder connecting the pieces of glass together. Again, this is why you want to keep your design relatively simple, keep the sections big as you can. And once you rub over that chrome, everything just comes to life. All of those shapes are further defined. I'm going to top coat this to really bring out the glass quality of the mag gels, and here is our stained glass effect. You can do any design that you want. It doesn't have to be flowers. I just felt this was very summery, spring-like, but lots of possibilities with this one. And speaking of glass, let's talk glass tiles. Now, I know this look has been trending and there are lots of different ways to achieve it. We're going to go with the good old painstaking hand-painted method. So I'm actually starting with a white painting gel and I'm just outlining the grid of tiles across the surface of the nail. And you can do any orientation you want. This is just going to be your guidelines for your tiles. You could do them diagonally if you'd like. You could make them rectangular. They don't have to be square. It's really up to you. But once you have that grid painted, I'm going to use the entire Bluecore collection. It's nice if you have a collection of gels that are slightly different colors, but all within the same color story. That way you can have some variety in the tiles. And I planned this out to where I could do 2 sections per color. So I'm just taking a small liner brush, painting in those sections individually, magnetizing each one as you go, and flash curing along the way. And yes, honestly, this is very similar to the stained glass effect, but because they're just squares, there's a little bit more room for error here. Some of the squares I'm actually demagnetizing so that you just get that clear base and you get a little bit of variety in the shine and in the texture. And once everything's filled in, it is so satisfying to look at. Honestly, you could top coat and kind of leave it there, but to really emphasize the tile shape, I'm taking that clear 3D gel and I'm just pressing that over the surface in a very thin layer. Make sure that there's not too much bulk around the edges, otherwise it's going to make your nail look a little bulky. So I'm just flattening that with my finger. And then you want to take a really thin metal implement. For me, I'm using a palette knife that I have. And you're going to use that to press in the lines in between the tiles. And this just gives you that separated look of the glass tiles being each their own individual. You can also achieve this by taking something like the Jinbei Crazy Top and painting over each square individually, avoiding the white lines. I find that takes way more time, so you could potentially try this method instead if you're in a rush. I do a very thin layer of top coat so as not to fill in those grooves and lose all of that definition. Cure that, and then we are done with this design as well. If you have a lot of magnetic gels, a lot of collections, and you find yourself not necessarily using all of the colors, this is a really fun way to use up an entire collection, have a nail that feels cohesive, and you can play around with the different types of cat eyes that you use. Maybe some tiles could be sparkly cat eyes, maybe again some could just be jelly. There's just a lot of different options. And for our second to last look, it's not summer without fruit, at least for me. I love fruit, and these sort of glassy magnetic fruit nail designs are really popular, so we're going to start with any sort of syrup base. I'm just using white here to showcase the design. Cure it and then wipe away the tacky layer, and then we're going in with the Yogurt Nail Sunshine collection. This is the really pretty peach color, and because it looks like a peach, I'm going to paint a peach. So the important thing when you're doing these fruit designs is if you can separate different parts of the fruit into different segments, it's going to give you a lot of dimension. So here I'm doing the right side of the peach, and this is sort of a big upside down teardrop shape that's just slightly angled to the right a little bit. Again, you'll want to magnetize each section and cure separately, and then we'll go in and paint on the left side. Try to avoid running that cat eye into the other part of the peach so you get that defining line down the middle. Again, magnetize and cure, and then going in with the green, just add a couple little leaves, magnetizing those along the way too. And you can do any fruit you want, any colors that you have that correspond to specific fruits you can play around with. And honestly, you could stop there, but I had the perfect peach and green little star sequins that I got from Ally, so I just glued on a couple of those. Here's a tip: if you have larger sequins, take a jelly stamper, push the sequin into the surface of the nail, and then flash cure through the jelly stamper. Shout out to my boyfriend who helped me with this one before I figured out that I could do it on my own by just holding the nail in a certain way. But what this does is it presses that sequin into the surface to help it curve so that it's not sticking up at the edges. Very, very handy for keeping your nail profile nice and slim. Once that's cured into place, I'm going in with an overlay gel just to smooth out the surface. This is the Roro Clear Gel. And then once I have a nice thick layer on there, I'm going to cure. And then I will file down the sides just to make sure, again, it's nice and smooth. There's no sequin sticking out at all, especially since some of them I glued a little bit too close to the edge on accident. And then for top coat, I'm actually going in with a matte top coat because I want to cover just the fruit with a clear gel. I'm using that Crazy Top Thick, and having a matte background just really helps that magnetic gel pop, so it's the only thing that's shiny. So I'm following the magnetic gel pattern, just covering the right side of the peach first, flash curing, then covering the left, just repeating the steps we did to paint the peach in the first place, trying to keep those two parts separate so you get like a 3D bubbly effect, curing that, and then doing the leaves. And we are done with this design as well. I think it's a really fun look. It's a little bit more playful, and again, you can choose any fruits that you would like. If you wanted to make it a little bit more elevated, you could add some gold chrome. And to me, it just screams summer. Now, speaking of summer, what is better than a refreshing drink? If you're following my shorts on Instagram or here on YouTube, I've been doing this summer drink series using cat eye to create kind of like that condensation look. You want to start with a jelly color base of some sort. Here I'm doing a pink lemonade nail, so of course we're going to use pink. This is the jelly pink from the Divock 4 Season Summer Collection. And I'm just creating an ombre at the tip. It does not have to be perfect whatsoever. This is just a background. I did 2 layers to just build up that color a little bit. And then I'm going in with my Roro Mr. Tomato inks. This is such a fun, playful summer collection, and I'm going to be painting on a layer of the Roro drawing mat top first, just to get a smooth surface to work on. You do need to wipe the tacky, and then don't forget to shake your inks really well before use. I'm going in with the bright summer yellow color, and I'm just painting on a little lemon wedge. The less ink that you have on your brush, the more control you'll have. You can always dip back into the ink and do another layer to really amp up the color. These inks are pretty pigmented. You can see here over the red that the yellow still shows through, especially if you do multiple layers. And then I'm going to be taking the red color and just painting on a few cute little strawberries. And I'm just doing this with the brush included in the bottle. If you want more control, just make sure that you wipe off a lot of the excess ink. That way your brush isn't flooding the entire nail. The less ink you have on your brush, the better for getting finer details. And because these are inks, if you dislike something that you drew, you can just take a little lint-free wipe with some acetone and it very easily wipes away. I just repositioned that strawberry to where I thought it looked a little bit better. Added another lemon detail, and then I took the green just to paint on a couple little leaves. Again, I did this in 2 layers to really amp up the color, letting it fully dry in between before adding another layer of the drawing mat top, because we are actually going to draw using some colored pencils. Now, I do have some higher end colored pencils, but you can actually achieve this look with just regular colored pencils. Here's just a cheap like 99-cent pencil from the Dollar Tree, but in comparison, I do think that the nicer artist colored pencils are a little bit more pigmented and smooth to work with. But just play around with your colored pencils that you have and see if you can get good enough results with those. So I'm just using the white to draw in the pith and then outline each little lemon segment. The goal is not to cover the inks entirely, but just to add some details with the pencils. So I'll take a bright yellow and just do a couple little lines, add a dark green shadow to the little leaves, and then use a bright yellow pencil to add the seeds to the strawberries. And I just love the playful touch that colored pencils add to a really vibrant and fun design like this. Once you're happy with your drawn details, you will be adding a magnet gel on top. Now, I've been using this silver mag gel from Blonde Blonde. Unfortunately, it sells out so fast because you can see here it has a really nice clear base when you paint it on thin enough. So instead, we're going to be using this kind of like golden yellow toned magnetic gel from the Divock Glacé collection. Because we're doing a lemonade, I think it actually works well that the tone here is more of a golden shift. So I'm just taking all of those particles, bringing them to the center, and then sort of spreading them out a little bit with the magnet. And this just creates that foggy effect, so it looks like the drink is in a nice cold glass. And then to really sell that idea, we're going to use a poke gel. I have both the Cressani Neri and the D-Gel Talk Talk Gel. Both work the same. You paint on a layer, cure it, and then you paint on a thin top coat. This is the Roro Water Top, and you just let that top coat spread, and it will create these lovely droplets that look like condensation on a cold glass of strawberry lemonade. I do have a couple other variations on my shorts if you would like to check those out, but that actually brings us to the end of the video. I hope this was useful in helping you kind of troubleshoot magnetic gels, but also giving you some ideas for some fun summer looks you can try. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite way of using cat eye is. I do have a Discord if you would like to speak with other nail artists who are just passionate about nails. It's free to join and it is linked in the description as well. Along with everything I used today, I am a Sweetie Nail Supply brand ambassador, so you can use my code GETPRESSED to save 10%, and it really helps me just continue to do what I love on this channel. So I appreciate everyone who uses it and everyone who is here watching. Subscribe for more nail art tutorials, hauls, vlogs, all of that good stuff. But I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you all for the next one. Bye.